Hey, Emma from Speero here. Today I'm going to talk you through one of our research stories. This centers around tree testing and new navigation for one of our clients. So I'll get started by jumping into the insight. So this is the reason why we did the tree testing in the first place. We were working with a client in the B2B healthcare sector, and our Research Excel project identified a range of issues with their navigation. Users were struggling to understand where to find content that they were looking for due to the groupings and the labelings on the current navigational structure. So we worked with this client to develop a new main navigation, and there were also some business changes that required some change to labeling, change to categories, etc. as well, that we incorporated as part of this change. And because of that, we really wanted to validate the new navigation with some data and some research before putting it live. In this circumstance, we weren't able to A/B test some of the changes due to technical limitations. So we landed on tree testing. If you don't know about tree testing is a form of user research that is really helpful for validating changes to navigation. So it's similar to something called card sorting. Card sorting can help you to identify issues with current groupings and labels, but card sorting is also very helpful for creating new navigational structures because you can understand if users were to group and to label content, how would they do that? And then we can look at that data at scale. If you get 50, 100, even more users to complete that task, then you can see the common themes. Tree testing almost comes after that. That helps us to validate or further validate a new navigational structure. It involves setting up a navigational structure in the form of a series of links. So there's no design elements here. It's just a series of links. And then you set users certain tasks, and then you're able to see where they clicked in order to complete that task. And you gather a range of different data, which I'll go into in a second. So in terms of what we did, what the plan was. So as I've mentioned, we wanted to assess the extent to which the new navigation met with expectations and provided an intuitive user experience, which, as we know, wasn't happening on the current website. And we wanted to compare the proposed navigation against the control to understand not only is it better, but how much better is the user experience. So we used a tool called Optimal Workshop, which is really great for card sorting and tree testing. We recruited 50 participants per test, and we used a screener because the target audience here was very, very niche. And this was a little bit of a challenge when doing research for this client because we were looking for ultimately doctors and nurses, vets, for example, people who would be working within the healthcare sector in some way. We created 6 tasks based around the sort of 6 core categories that were on the navigation. And we also set up 2 qualitative post-task questions to help us understand how users found the experience and what they struggled with or what they found easy. In terms of the data, we were able to collect first click data. So this provides us with insight in terms of when users are given the task, what is the first thing they click on in the navigation. We're then also able to see task success rate, and there's 2 versions of this data, indirect and direct. Direct task success means that they click through all of the levels of the navigation without a mistake. So for example, they may have clicked on our solutions and then clicked on vets, for example, veterinary care, and that might, if that was the right place for them to succeed in that task, then that would be a direct success. An alternative success might be that they click in place of work and then they don't see an option within the options that come up that meets with their expectations. So then they click out of place of work and they click back into our solutions, and then they click on vet care, for example. That's a success, but it's an indirect success, and that indicates some level of confusion or something that might not be totally clear. And then finally, destination. Where do they end up? In tree testing, how this works is that they specify, I think I would find this information on this page, and that's the end of their task. So we also look at where did people actually end up and where did they think that they had successfully completed the task. Here you can see the two different versions. So this is the old or the control version, and then the new version. So you can see the sort of changes that we made as well. In terms of the results, we saw average task success rate improve by over 100%, in fact 164%. And you can see here the difference between the task success rate in control and variation. This kind of text here goes into a little bit more detail. What we kept seeing was one specific task that performed particularly badly across both control and variation. And this actually pulled down the averages across both. If we were to remove that task, then in fact the latest score for the variation would be more like 7.5, so even more of an improvement there. So that was something we went away and did a little bit more digging on. So the recommendation here was to implement the variation based on this improvement. And then we had a few additional extra sort of next steps as well. One thing we identified was an opportunity to do some cross-pollination of content. So for example, linking to specialty pages and pricing pages from the product information pages, because we could see that users were expecting certain information in certain places, and often in multiple places across the website as well. We also wanted to review some of the labeling within the resources category, which speaks to some of this content just up here. And then obviously, as we always do, we wanted to monitor engagement with the new navigation once it was live to help inform future optimization. That's me done. This is a little bit longer than it's supposed to be. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. And also, if you have any questions about card sorting or tree testing, happy to answer those as well. Take care.